Hey everyone, so it hasn't been too long since my last video, and I wanted to jump in here with another one because, as you can see, I am happy to report that I was able to get my hands on one of the recent test scents, the Paris Lavender Macaron. Now, first of all, a huge thank you and shout out to Jen Showalter, the Show 78 on Instagram, who was able to give me some advice on which stores in Ohio are now test stores. So I was home for the holidays and then took a bit of a multiple-hour road trip out to Ohio, to Columbus, to check out some of the recent test collections. So there's the Fiesta collection, there's this Destinations collection, there's a Frosted Glass sort of beach, conceptual tropical collection, and then there is, I don't know what they're calling it, sort of like the market, fresh market collection, down home southern sort of collection, that is also in test right now. And so with her help, I was able to identify which stores currently were testing, because it's super weird now. They take them off of test, even though they just had them out for a few weeks, and some stores within a 10-mile radius will have them out, others won't. Some will have them on sale, some won't. But I was able to locate the main, I think, sort of flagship that had them in stock. So I was able to get my hands on some things. So I may do another video where I review some of the other ones, but for the most part, they're almost all repackages across almost all of the collections. I can't even think of any that are they're super brand new. I smelled almost all of them. There was one or two, like I think a mocha latte swirl and a berries and cream in the market collection that I didn't get to sniff, but I did get the key lime pie, which again, as most people are saying, is similar to the tequila lime cupcake White Barn exclusive from last year. But I do have those. I grabbed also the vanilla cinnamon spice, whatever, in the Fiesta collection, which is essentially your cinnamon sugar donut. So some things I love, but nothing that's like truly amazingly groundbreaking. But this is sort of, because of the name, because of the potential history, the repackage potential here, this has turned into sort of one of the, as they call them in the candle Bath & Body Works community, sort of like the unicorn candles, where everyone wants it, it sells out quickly. It may or may not be released. Who knows what's going to happen. I would be shocked if this didn't release, just based on the name and the fact that it's kind of bakery, and for what they released that's crappy, they should release this great one. So, but when this came back, I, along with many other sort of old school Slatkin fans circa 2011 or earlier, had many freakouts, because this one in the Destinations collection is called Paris Lavender Macaron, which is the exact name of this baby from 2011, which actually was called Lavender Caramel, and then was released, but has a picture of macarons on there, and then was released in a mini candle in part of a French trio collection. This is way before French Baguette and all those other ones came out, and it was called Lavender Macaroon, misspelled with two O's, like the sort of coconut haystack sort of American macaroon that people may be familiar with. But it was a super weird candle. This was from the 2011 tests, actually the last time that I was actually able to go to Columbus to get tests before I started grabbing them in New Jersey. And I completely fell in love with this. It's a weird one. Some people love it, some people hate it. Karen sent my way, sort of marked it as stovetop stuffing, which is something that kind of, I think, has stuck around and I tended to agree with, but it's just such a conceptual, sort of herbal, sort of savory, sort of bakery. Can't put your finger on it. Could be called a million different things, and could have, I think, been a hugely amazingly popular scent, but it didn't pass test, and it nothing really happened to it. Cut to now 4 years later, and Paris Lavender Macaron goes into test, and people are freaking out, thinking it might be that. Then they're thinking maybe it's this other wonderful failed test scent that's probably in my top 20 of all Slatkin or all Bath & Body Works candles ever, which is Lavender Marshmallow, which was the late 2013, early 2014, so now 2 years ago, Spring Street Sweet Shop collection. One of the better sweet shop collections that they've had. There were a lot of new scents that year: pineapple cream puff, bubblegum, this lavender marshmallow. They had lemon cucumber, heirloom green, snap peas, tons and tons of stuff. It was actually a really good year, spring at least, for test scents, I think, back in early 2014. But, so then we're thinking maybe it's that one. But you know what I like to do, and there's also been some folks saying maybe it's pink petal tea cake, and then on the left here you see a ton of other lavenders, because though I don't do tons of videos anymore on Touch the Fire Twice, when I do, I love to do the sort of sniff comparison and review, dig deep in my candle closet, pull out some old ones, and kind of either say it is or isn't this, or a blend of this, or just if you are familiar with any of the ones on the left there, I can say it is like that in this way, so that you know if it's something you want to go after and try to find, or just because, you know, those of us who love to sniff things tend to find that interesting, seeing what's what. So, first, I guess I'll dig into this itself. We'll go into the labeling. It's pretty nice. It's it's got embossed there with where it says Paris Lavender Macaron on there. Of course, macaron is that almond flour based, really difficult to make pastry that is Parisian. And then the description is just a truly French treat that combines the fragrance of lavender blossoms with a delicate patisserie cookie. So, sniffing this, and it's just a really light kind of classic pink wax there. It's very nice. It is very, very nice. It should go wide. Now, what I get from this, before saying if I think it's any of these or not, you don't get lavender in the traditional sort of astringent or even super powdery sense. It is a little bit more of a subdued lavender. It's there, but strong people without strong scent noses or you know, fragrance fans might not instantly say that's lavender. Whereas if you smell this French lavender candle, if you have ever smelled anything lavender before, which of course this one is just straight up almost all lavender, you know immediately, boom, that is lavender. That is lavender essential oils. Whereas with this one here, the Paris Lavender Macaron, it's just a light, delicate touch of that. And then the rest of it really is mostly bakery. Sweet, kind of fluffy, no almond, not super flowery, and I mean F-L-O-U-R-Y, not flour like florals, but flour like bakery flour. Not much on that side. It's just kind of almost like creamy, but without vanilla. Think creamy vanilla, but without any vanilla tonka bean weirdness. And no floral. It is more conceptual. I wouldn't necessarily call this foodie or even really bakery. I wouldn't call it herbal either. Now, when I first heard it and someone mentioned, oh yeah, it does kind of have that stovetop note, I was really excited, thinking, oh my gosh, is it finally my love, Lavender Caramel / Lavender Macaroon coming back. Now, the notes on this one, back when they were super basic with their notes here, were just simply an unexpected blend of lavender, warm caramel, and brown sugar with just a touch of salt. And you can see there on the label, it was just lavender, or rather just macaron cookies. Oh gosh, this is, oh boy, I'm instantly transported to 2011, for better for worse. This one, it is similar to this. I will say the lavender is a very similar lavender, where it's more of like a foodie lavender. It's not herbal, it's not floral, it's not astringent. It's dulled, almost like a really light lavender. But this definitely has some of that. This candle hasn't been lit ever, and so it's really hard to get a good, accurate sniff on it after so many years being locked away. But trying to rub some of the wax, this does have a little more of a sweetness, like a bit of that candied caramel to it, like that dark brown caramel, but not the ooey gooey like they do sometimes nowadays. And I actually don't get much of that stovetop stuffing. There was sort of the savory, kind of almost sage herbal note in this that Karen always noted, and I smelled too. Almost like a little something slightly sour or off. Almost like a little bit like the warm honey and milk sort of notes that sometimes you taste, like that smell, like kind of like slightly off milk, or almost like a buttermilk sort of note. There's a tiny bit of that in the lavender caramel that you do not get in the Paris Lavender Macaron. Now let's compare it to these two here. We'll start with Pink Petal Tea Cake. It's got the same colored wax. This was a failed test scent from, what was this? This was early 2014 in sort of their garden party collection. It was a fun one. I burned it once or twice, but very low throw. And the notes in this one were just tea for two becomes even sweeter with a blah, blah, blah. Garden rose petals, freshly baked cake, and vanilla glaze. I think Bronze Blogger loved this one, I believe. I could be wrong. This one has a little more of that rose to it. If I smell that side by side with this one, I could see they're related. Like not the floral. It's almost really as if the base of them is very much the same, which is kind of that slightly cakey, a very thinly light vanilla glaze. So not frosting, not heavy cream, but just a little bit of a glaze, like a little bit of a sugared glaze. But this one clearly has a little bit more of a true kind of rose floral on the pink petal tea cake, whereas the Lavender Macaron has a slightly stronger lavender, but drier. So I'd say they're actually quite similar, but obviously not the same. And then we get to Lavender Marshmallow. Boy, oh boy, people lost their ish over this one, and I can understand why. I had one of them, I completely burned through it. This is the only one that I have now, and I hate to burn it. Great label, cute design, really fun, good wax. Notes were the merging of two unexpected flavors, lavender and marshmallow, make this mouthwatering blend a special treat. Marshmallow candles are tough to make them accurate, because what does a marshmallow really smell like? Oh boy, it's light, so I don't want people to freak out and be, oh my god, I can't believe he has this candle, because it's not like the most amazing, unique thing in the whole wide world, but it is really good. Now, I will say it's got the same type of floral and sort of base, the creamy base as this. Not so much marshmallow. Again, slightly vanilla, slightly sweet, a little bordering towards bakery, but not quite baked good, like not cupcake, cake kind of stuff. But when I sniff that Lavender Macaron to Lavender Marshmallow, to me, I would say it's pretty much a repackage of it. Again, this one at this point is, what, 2 years old? This was, yeah, late 2013 it was made, so it's actually got a little bit stronger on the lavender for me than Lavender Macaron. Lavender Macaron almost really reminds me a little bit more, actually, of this, but clearly not the same floral. The lavender and the rose, like this leans much more heavy on the rose, as it should. It's in the pink petals in the name. And this has, it's funny, it's almost like these four, this included, are so similar to each other, with like one ringing thing that's different in each of them. But ultimately, I do think that it's quite possible that Lavender Macaron is a true straight-up repackage of Lavender Marshmallow. If there is any difference, again, it's hard to say, because this one also I haven't burned, and it's been in the closet for 2 years, trying to rub the wax here. Yeah, it's hard to get that on there. It's kind of light, but I'd say it's basically Lavender Marshmallow with just a little bit more of maybe sort of the glaze or the cakey creaminess that you get from pink petal tea cake. So it's kind of potentially a hybrid of those two, and kind of taking the best of each of them, because I like this a little bit, the Lavender Macaron, a little more than the Lavender Marshmallow, I think. And I certainly like it better than the pink petal tea cake. And I've had to choose between these four, obviously. The original is my absolute favorite. And then this one might beat out Lavender Marshmallow, and then fourth place is that pink petal tea cake. But really quickly, since, you know, we love to say, oh, could it be this, could it be that from years past, I have a ton of lavender scents that they've released over the years, just to give a quick sort of comparison, and yay, nay, it's not this, or this is what it reminds me of in this, because they can take similar styles of lavender, similar styles of vanilla, or whatever from different candles. Obviously, we know when they do repackages, or repackages with a twist, as LVD used to say. So Lavender Vanilla, which I have here, this is the early 2013. That's your like really strong, kind of powdery, sweet vanilla. And lavender, which actually they also had here in a fragrance mount that I grabbed at a White Barn last year. That's sort of your more perfumey, like laundry lavender vanilla, so not that one. This, of course, is the gold standard, and actually I'll tell you right off the bat, so the video doesn't get super long, these two are essentially identical. I do love the label on the right there. This was a test line. I think they had this, maybe orange spice clove, and a vetiver, which turned into wild vetiver, which then was part of the Forest collection, which was also a failed test line. So, but this was just when they were doing pure one-note candles for a while in test. This was in early 2012 they made this, and this was just fresh picked lavender, jasmine, freesia, and sandalwood. It's just lavender. Oh, super, super strong in the lavender. But sniffing that, it's really the same as the French lavender, which they say has a hint of vanilla, which it really doesn't. But they are essentially the same. French vanilla might be even a tiny bit stronger. Florida Provence, which I actually think Bronze Blogger liked this one a lot too, which was lavender and verbena, which was from early 2014 as the Destinations collection. I think it failed though. Really a sweet lavender. So true lavender, but much more sweet thanks to that lemon verbena, which really kind of brightens it up and pumps it up, adds that citrus to it. This is one I loved that we thought may actually have been, or I think maybe this is one that was mentioned as potentially coming back for that Ice Vanilla Woods lavender that people loved this fall 2015, winter 2015. The notes on this one, again, this is from, gosh, what was this? This was early 2012, I believe. Lavender and Sage, which you'd think, if I got Sage in the old Lavender Caramel, you might get it from this, but boy, oh my gosh, this gold lid collection, scroll way back to sometime in 2012, my very first couple of videos were just on this gold lid, like, aromatherapy collection they made. And it was just like one of my all-time favorite lines. But this one is really strong on the lavender. And I guess the sage is really strong. It's not the typical bakery sage or savory sage you'd expect. It's a really strong hit right in the nose. Almost, you definitely do get the spearmint as well. Definitely a lot of mint in there. But a really fresh, invigorating blend. Wouldn't really call it peaceful. I'd call it something more invigorating than that. But that one, I think then came out as Lavender Market, maybe, in a Paris collection a while later, alongside this Peach Lavender. Actually, I'll just talk about that one really quickly. This Peach Lavender was from the, was that early 2012, I think, Fresh Picked collection where they had the Sage and Cucumber and some really fun ones, like a really big cohesive collection in that that super early 2012 collection. And this is just said fresh peach, sweet lavender flower, touch of bergamot, which is a bitter orange. And this one was then repackaged as, gosh, what was it? Do you remember the trio of Paris scents? It was like Paris Daydream, French Garden, focus. That trio of Paris scents, it was Paris Daydream, French Garden, and Lavender Market. So this one was actually the French Garden. So if you like that one, it was the peach and lavender, really sweet, but a really, really nice mix. No real florals in there, but a sweet peach, which is not annoying, which it usually is to me, with some fresh lavender. Really nice. And then this sort of lavender that was the Lavender Sage and Spearmint came out as Lavender Market. And then Paris Daydream, Sparkling Icicles, such and such, blah, 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 was out as Paris Daydream. The only other one, I guess, to compare this to, back on track, the Lavender Macaron, would be the Lavender Chamomile, way back from the Aromatherapy, which has been out forever, which is just lavender and chamomile essential oils. Incredibly powdery. It takes your breath away. But I really like it as well. The chamomile is a super, super dry down, even more powdery, and to match up the astringency of the lavender. Nice, but whew, man, that's almost a little grandma-ish. Long story short, though, I do not think that the vanilla, or whatever kind of vanilla cakiness in here, is the same as a lavender vanilla. To me, that's just, it's super, super powdery sweet vanilla, almost like powdered sugar, but not candy. Kind of hard to explain, not bakery, just like Lickimade, like Lickum Stick, like that hard candy, like candy cigarettes. That's kind of sweetness I get from that lavender vanilla in a weird way. Anyway, 18-minute video later, as I blab on, but listen, I spent 20 minutes to dig these suckers out, so I was going to talk about them. End of the day, I really do love this Paris Lavender Macaron. I'll burn it soon. Need to get a little further away from Christmas holiday scents before I can light this bad boy, but unfortunately not my Lavender Caramel Dream. I'll keep that on the back burner along with my, Winter Garland and Vanilla Spice and Eucalyptus Citrus and Toasted Almond that one day I hope they pull out from the vaults. And yeah, sniffing more and more. This is the first time I'm sniffing it, comparing it really. It was just from memory before this video. And I would say the Lavender Marshmallow, there's something a tiny bit more savory in that than in this. They sweeten it up in the Lavender Macaron, taking some of the sweetness from the Pink Petal Tea Cake. So yeah, I'm actually going to, my final verdict, if anyone cares, is I don't believe it's actually a repackage of anything. I think that it really is a combination of these two here. 80% that lavender marshmallow, thrown in a little bit of that sort of cakey vanilla glaze, which makes sense because it's a bakery item. They say a patisserie treat. Kind of the best of both worlds of these two. Not as cloying or floral as this, not quite as intense or, dare I say, astringent or savory as this. Kind of the perfect mix of the two. So not my old favorite, but a really, really great one, potential new favorite. So that's it for this time. Please continue the convo here over at facebook.com/TouchTheFireTwice. Follow my other channel, facebook.com/TheGentlemanNextDoor, or just TheGentlemanNextDoor.com over on YouTube, where we've got some fun stuff going on. And yeah, hopefully I'll have time to review some of the other new ones, but again, they're not that new, so there's not as much to say about them as there was with this Lavender Macaron. So until next time, guys, take care.